Well, Merry Christmas to all of you, and we are so glad that you are able to join us today. We are going to prepare a wonderful, delicious Christmas meal that is easy to make and everyone will enjoy. And I invited my friend Davy to join me today, and we'll cook this meal together.
I'm so happy to be here, Diksha. It's so wonderful. Christmas is such a time of family celebration, and it's wonderful to do it with a dear friend.
So what are you going to make?
Well, the part of the meal I'm going to prepare is wonderful, succulent baked acorn squash with a wild rice mixed stuffing. And then we'll also do some broccoli with sliced almonds and orange dressing. And what are you going to do?
Well, I will start with making a wonderful maple walnut pie and tofu spinach pasties and mushroom gravy. So before we start, Davy will lead us in a prayer, and I would like to light this lovely Christmas candle. Okay.
Beautiful. So Christmas is a time not just of parties and gifts, but it's a time to celebrate the consciousness of a great spiritual master who came to this world. So let's pray together. Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
friend, beloved God,
friend, beloved God,
great masters of all religions,
great masters of all religions,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
we humbly bow to you all.
we humbly bow to you all.
O Spirit of Christ consciousness,
O Spirit of Christ consciousness,
flow through us as we prepare this meal.
flow through us as we prepare this meal today.
May the vibrations of your universal love,
May the vibrations of your universal love,
compassion,
compassion,
and divine strength
and divine strength
infuse this food.
infuse this food,
And may all who enjoy it
and may all who enjoy it
feel uplifted in your spirit.
feel uplifted in your spirit.
Om.
Om.
Peace.
Peace.
Amen.
Amen. So now I will start by making the crust for the maple walnut pie. I've turned the oven to 375. I will do that, and then Davy will bake the acorn squash. So they both need to go into the oven for 375 degrees. So today I will make a whole wheat crust.
Wonderful.
With oil, not butter. And if you are allergic to wheat, online we give you the option for non-wheat crust and also more richer crust with butter. So for this, I'm going to use 1.5 cups of whole wheat pastry flour. You just put that in a bowl. And half a teaspoon of salt, sea salt. I will mix this. And then I will add 1/3 cup of sunflower oil.
I've never been able to make a good pie crust, so I'm very, very happy to learn how to do this one. For most of us, I think we just buy the pre-made pie crust, and they always leave a little bit to be desired, so this is fantastic.
So this now we'll add 1/4 cup of cold water. I put the water first in the fridge for a little bit. And let me move so you can see. It looks very wet, but you will see.
Diksha, you can probably use this crust for like quiches and other things too?
Everything.
Oh, that's great.
Magic of Christmas.
Oh yeah, the liquid is being absorbed right into the flour, so it's going to be a nice consistency.
Let me move this. So now I'm going to use my hands.
It's amazing how quickly all the moisture got absorbed.
Mm-hmm. David, would you put this under,
Sure.
please? You see this? Wonderful. Not even kneading it.
Mm. Well, I think this is going to be delicious, and even if you're not very confident about making pie crust, I think everybody can do this one.
That's right. So I'm just stretching it a little bit.
Diksha's just pushing it out so that it's even throughout the pie pan, and then it's moving up to the rim, so it'll bake nice and evenly.
Here we go.
Beautiful.
Prick it.
Work of art. Why are you doing that?
Because when you bake it, if you don't do it, what happens, it will start to create little puffs in the dough. So this helps to release the steam and keep it down. That's it.
Beautiful.
All right, I'll put it in. I'm going to put this in for about 15 minutes at 375. And meanwhile, Devi will show us how to do the acorn.
Okay, while Diksha is getting that in the oven, we'll move on to our baked acorn squash. And
I'm putting the timer.
okay, good, 15 minutes. And acorn squash, all of the winter squashes are a wonderful, nutritious food. And they keep for weeks and weeks in a pantry, and a wonderful addition to any meal. So what we're using today is acorn squash. There's dozens of varieties, and these are called acorn because they're shaped a little bit like a giant acorn. And takes a little muscle to cut them. You need a good sharp knife. We had the aid of our cameraman, Dave Bingham, came and cut these up for us. And we've kept the little stem on this one just because it looks pretty. And you can also, once you cut them in half, you'll find wonderful seeds inside. And you just use a spoon. You can use even a grapefruit spoon that has a little perforated edge to get the seeds out. And this is what they look like. Then if you want to later, you can wash them, get all the little fiber out, dry them, and mix them with a little oil and brags, and bake them in the same temperature oven that we bake the squash, 375, but only for about 10 or 15 minutes. And it's a wonderful, nutritious snack. So the baked squash, we've cut it in half. We lay it on our baking sheet, which has parchment paper down. Did I say you put these on a baking sheet when you bake them? And if you use parchment paper, it's easier to clean up. And then what we do is we take our sunflower oil, and you can just put a little bit in your hand. And we're going to coat this inside and out. So you want to keep nice moisture. And some squashes, we'll do this with all 4 of them, and then we place them face down because the moisture stays in and they don't get dried out. Some squash, you can eat the skins. The butternut squash, you can eat the
really
skins.
great.
But with acorn squash, it's a little tougher.
Yeah.
So it's better, you just want to scoop it out, the meat out of the shell with the acorn squash. So
Yeah, there's one thing, let me just say, when I use the seeds, I clean it first from of course, the flesh, and I mix with oil and brag.
Wonderful.
And it gives it a nice taste. Then I spread them on a cookie sheet and I bake them for about 10 minutes.
Now, generally we bake these beautiful little squashes for about an hour at 375. But sometimes they'll get done a little sooner. It's always variables, and depending on the moisture in the squash or whatever. And so after, we'll set our timer for 50 minutes, 50, and then at that time we'll prick it with a little knife or a fork to see if it feels like it's cooked all the way through. If not, we'll bake it the rest of those 10 minutes.
Do you want me to put it in?
Yeah, my hands are a little greasy, so why don't you go ahead and do that. So, isn't that easy?
All right, put this timer on. Timer.
This will do for 50 minutes as our test.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we'll get ready for making the filling for the pie and cooking the wild rice mix.
Whoa.
So now I will make the walnut filling, but beforehand let you know that the crust is ready. I pulled it out from the oven, and I will turn the heat on for the saucepan, and this is 1/2 cup of butter. So let me put this in, let it melt. And Davy, would you put this down? Thank you. Once it melts, I will add, this is 1/2 cup of agave, and I will use here 1/4 cup of maple syrup. I decided to substitute, instead of honey, I'm using agave. I don't like to bake with honey because in the Ayurvedic medicine, they said that when we bake honey, it becomes toxic. So for the body, so I don't use it in baking. So this is happening, almost there. And I'm going to tell you something very exciting, at least I think it is. Instead of 3/4 cup of brown sugar, I'm going to use 1/4 of a teaspoon of stevia powder. It's amazing how little you need to substitute brown sugar. And I will tell you all about it in a minute.
And your agave that you're substituting for the honey, that's from the agave plant.
That's right.
Beautiful.
I've seen that plant in the desert. It's huge.
Huh.
It looks like an aloe vera plant, but a huge aloe vera plant.
You know, there's so many wonderful traditions from different cultures that bring us a nutritional diet that we can use, and they're all being rediscovered now. You know, I think in this quest for more and more healthful eating, we're finding many traditional sources of delicious flavors. There's just the stevia, the agave, and natural maple syrup with no artificial sweeteners or coloring added, which you be sure to check your label when you buy maple syrup, because a lot of them have a lot of things added.
Mm-hmm. So this is almost done. Ready. And as I said, I will add to this the agave. I will use the little spatula here.
What I love about this recipe is for the walnut pie, it's such a delicious recipe, but if you've had the traditional way of making it, you know, it's very high in sugar and very high in calories, and this wonderful recipe is neither.
Maple syrup. And 1/4 teaspoon. There we go. Put that in. And now I will turn it off. Mix it. I think I will use this for a moment because I wanted to whisk the powder into the liquid. This is good. Right, so now I have 3 eggs. And one, two. I like to use the knife. Davy said that she does it here, and I was afraid to do it myself.
Well, you know, when you see
I like the straight cut.
when you see cordon bleu chefs, they always crack it. They always say,
Yeah.
it's all in the wrist. It's all in the wrist. And do have some accidents that way.
Whisking the eggs. Okay, I'm going to slowly whisk it into the butter. Okay.
You want to scrape any
Yeah.
in? Or?
I'm one of those people who scrape everything.
No, it's good. What did Benjamin Franklin say? Waste not one.
I'm one of those.
Okay. I
Thank
think
you.
That's good.
That's good.
Get rid of these.
All right, and now we'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Smell this.
Ooh, what kind of vanilla
Soraya.
is that, Diksha?
You know, I don't remember.
It's very,
I think it's almond. Almond vanilla
Ooh. Wow.
tastes great. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Make sure this is the right amount. The last thing, we'll add the walnuts, but I think I'm going to take this out first. I'm going to fold it in. All right, put this in. This is our filling.
Wow.
All right, I will pour it right into the 15 minutes baked crust.
Beautiful. Fits perfectly, too. One of the hard things I found with pie baking is to get the right amount of filling in the crust. And that looks perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect proportions.
So we're still waiting for your, you have 25 minutes for your acorn. I think I'm going to move your acorn
Okay.
down and put that up.
They're looking good, though.
Yep. Okay, I'll put this in. Nice and hot here. And now I will tell you about the stevia. So stevia is a South American shrub considered to be a medicinal plant. And you can see this is the dry herbs. And
I think I read that in the indigenous culture it's called sweet leaf. And
well, the leaves are so sweet. They said it's about 200 or 300 times more sweet than sugar.
amazing.
So if you're using the crushed leaves, you need about 2 tablespoons to replace 1 cup of sugar. If you're using the powder, because it's more concentrated, you need about 1/3 of a teaspoon to replace 1 cup of sugar. Now, stevia has no calories, and it does not impact the blood sugar. Yeah. So people with diabetes can use that too. Now, if you use too much, then it becomes bitter. So mix it with other sweeteners like honey or maple syrup. It brings up really the sweetness and doesn't add any strange flavor.
Where could people buy this?
This they can buy in health food store.
Great.
They have the leaf, they have the powder, they have a tincture too.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So now we are baking the pie, and I need to put the timer to 30 minutes. And when the pie will be done, we will serve it with a sweet whipped cream.
Okay, now we're going to move on to our wild rice mixed stuffing. And one of the things that I think we all love about the holidays is the wonderful fragrance of herbs. So when we cook this, we're going to be adding basil and
sage
and
thyme.
And these are all these wonderful, fragrant, aromatic herbs. So it fills the whole house with this nice aroma. And if you remember, this is going to be our stuffing that we're going to stuff our baked acorn squash in. It's a wonderful dish with a wonderful baked, rich, succulent squash and this nice texture of a mixture. So this is not all wild rice. This is about 3 or 4 different rices, 1 cup that we have soaked overnight in 3 cups of water and then rinsed and drained. And this, with the squash, it serves from 4 to 6 people. So first, to begin with, what we're going to do is
I will turn it on for you.
Okay, good. We're going to use our wonderful pressure cooker that you've seen used in so many different of our recipes. But to begin with, we're not using it as a pressure cooker. We're using it only as a saucepan. So we're going to start by adding 1/4 cup of butter into our pressure cooker. Thank you. And then here we're adding 1 cup of coarsely chopped shallots. Now, if you haven't used shallots before, if you're not familiar, they come to us. I'm letting the butter melt a little bit more in the bottom of the pressure cooker. Shallots are, I think they came to us primarily from our French cuisine. It's a small onion, you can see it, but it has a much milder flavor. So you'll notice in many nice recipes, they'll call for shallots, and if you don't have shallots, you can use onions. But shallots give things a much milder flavor, not so strong as your onion. Okay, so we're going to let the butter melt and let the shallots start to get sauteed. And as we're waiting, I'm going to add a little pinch of our Celtic salt, just sprinkle it around.
Actually, sorry, I could bring you. For those who don't know, this is the Celtic salt. This is our sea salt. So sometimes when I saute, you can do either, but sometimes I use the coarser one when I'm just sauteing. But when I serve a dish and I need some salt, I use the sea salt.
Okay.
So wanted that.
And while we're letting this cook a little bit, our squash is almost ready to come out of the oven. In fact, we may be bringing it out while we're doing this. And then we'll let it, it's all right if it sits a little bit. It's not like a souffle that's going to fall. It'll give us time to cook this. But in the pressure cooker, you'll see when this is nicely cooked, this wild rice mixture only has to cook about 12 minutes. If you did it on the stovetop, it cooks 45 minutes to an hour. So again, one of the great benefits of using your pressure cooker. And this is a mixture, it has brown rice and wild rice. If you use wild rice alone, it's a little too coarse.
Yes, I agree.
It's hard, but adding it to other rices, it just gives it a nice little texture to it.
It's too earthy.
Yeah.
And it has even like, I don't know if it's a bitter kind of a taste.
Yeah,
but
there's a little undertaste.
Yes.
Wild rice comes to us actually from the American Indians and primarily from Minnesota on the upper regions of the Mississippi River.
Do you know, I heard that it's not even a rice. It's actually, I think it's part of the grass family.
Really?
But it's is being used as a rice.
Okay, well I think we're ready to go now. So
what do you need now to
now
add?
we're going to add our soaked and rinsed and drained wild rice mixture. And as we said, it started off as 1 cup, but after soaking it overnight, looks a lot more. And we'll get this nice and coated with our butter. And then
I'll move this.
should we add our water next? And then okay, so this is 2 1/3 cups of water. Just add that in there.
It's interesting. I sometimes like to add the vegetable powder before I add the water? I don't know. Mix it.
You
Anyway,
can do it either
so
way.
Here's your vegetable
Okay,
powder.
so here is
2 tablespoons.
2 tablespoons. Thank you. Okay, just add
It's hard
that.
to remember all these things.
That's why it's nice to cook with a friend. Okay, get that nice. And this is going to be so flavorful. And when you add it to the baked squash, which doesn't have, as you remember, we didn't add any seasonings to that. It just brings it out. So now we have two teaspoons of dried basil and 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, or sage, excuse me, and then 1/4 of a teaspoon of dried thyme, which is a strong, strong flavor. And we mix this all together. This is going to be so delicious. Can you smell how good it smells already before all those wonderful...
Wonderful.
I have a friend who was a professional caterer and cooks a lot for others. And she says sometimes if she knows people are coming over for dinner and she has the meal already made, she'll saute some herbs and a little oil just to fill the house with that fragrance. Now,
You want me
Diksha,
to do
could you
that?
help me? Yeah, this is your pressure cooker and you're a little more familiar with it than I am.
Okay, close. Now we seal it. This is on. So we will bring it to a boil, and then once it comes to a full boil, I will turn it down and we'll simmer it for 12 minutes.
Well, as we move through making our wonderful Christmas dinner, we wanted to show you how lovely these baked squash look after you take them out of the oven. And we tried them, we tested them after 50 minutes at a 375-degree oven, and they weren't quite ready. So we gave them that extra 10 minutes. And then what you do to test them is you take a fork and you just poke right into them. And this, you can see how it goes down nice and smooth and a little steam comes out, and you know it's going to be delicious. And later on we'll show you how you fill them with our wonderful wild rice mixture stuffing. And also we wanted to give you, to show you Diksha's beautiful pie that you saw going in the oven. I don't know if you can see how beautiful it is, but it looks just picture perfect. And I wanted to also add that Diksha mentioned that you can also use a tincture, liquid drops of stevia. And you know, I love those. I use them every day for tea. You can buy them at most health food stores or online. And you just add 2 or 3 drops to a nice big cup of tea or coffee, and no bitter aftertaste, and it's a wonderful way to get a little natural sweetener without affecting your blood sugar level. So now we'll move on to our other menu items.
So now we'll start making the tofu spinach pasties, and I will start by making the filling for it. And I decided to do it more vegan style, which will be with tofu. So I will first start by sauteing, and I will start by sauteing in a large skillet. Let me turn it on.
So what we're making now will be our main course for our Christmas dinner.
So 1/4 cup olive oil. Let this heat up a little bit, so I can let even the last drop of oil in the skillet. Okay, here we go. Heat that up. To that, I will add about 1 cup of minced onion, and then 4 green onions that I have minced. So I will do that, and then we'll add other things to it. We add fresh baby spinach, we'll add garlic, and we will add also parsley. So let's see if this is ready. Still can use.
This is garlic powder, just to clarify.
Thank you.
You don't use whole fresh garlic because you want the filling to be very subtle and not
Do you want to tell them about where we got the spinach?
Yes, this spinach is from our Ananda gardens, baby spinach, and just fresh picked. We're so lucky to have it. And as you all probably know, there's wonderful farmers markets springing up all over the country now. So if you can buy locally grown produce, all the better. And this was actually explained to me a long time ago by the man who was in charge of our Ananda gardens.
Let me just add the...
That when you buy or eat locally grown produce, fruits or vegetables, the reason is because they're drawing from the soil and the water the nutrients you need for that area. So it isn't, there's really a reason behind it. So as much as you can buy locally, you'll find you'll be getting a lot more nutrition that you need.
You're basically living in harmony with your environment.
Yeah, isn't that lovely? So now you're adding the minced green onions. And I'm noticing that
A little pinch of Celtic salt.
that these are very nicely, finely minced.
Yes.
Because again, you would, for this stuffing, you want it to be not a lot of crunches of anything, but a nice, well-cooked blend of your onions and green onions.
So we'll let that saute for just a few minutes. And as I said, we'll move this away. And we will add the rest, just a few minutes. And then we'll add also this, the spinach, parsley, and the garlic. Meanwhile, let's see, you want to tell them about, this is the tofu. This is firm tofu, and this is the one you want to use, not silken tofu. And we use about 3/4 when you buy a package. So it's about 10 ounces. Okay.
You want me to go ahead and mash it? Okay.
She's going to mash
An
it.
easy way to start is just with your hands, and that gets most of it. And also, we dried this after we took it out of the plastic package.
With a paper towel. Let's see.
Good to rinse it off and dry it. And you want to get a nice thin or nice consistent breaking down of the tofu so that you don't have any chunks, and it just melts right into this beautiful onion spinach mixture that Diksha's working on. What do you think, Diksha? Should we?
I think you did a better job than when I do it.
Wow.
When I do it, sometimes I have a little pieces of tofu left, so I use a fork to finalize and mash it. So I think this is, can you smell?
Wonderful.
I will add first the garlic powder. And why am I using this spoon? I will use this. Mix that in. Low heat, because I do not want to burn the garlic powder. It's very gentle. And now I will mix the spinach.
And you're adding it just a little bit at a time,
Yes,
I see.
because you see, baby spinach has more water content than a regular spinach. That's why it's more soft. So I'm adding a little bit at a time, and it will start to shrink. So we do want the spinach to wilt.
And you already added a little bit of your Celtic salt?
I did. When I did it, the onions, I added a little bit to that. Did you know that baby spinach has more water content
No, I
than
didn't
regular
know
spinach?
that.
Yeah, I just read about it.
Now this filling that we're working on right now, our next step, which we'll be filming in a little while, will be to put it in a pastry filling, put the filling in a pastry lining. And if you think that you are, kind of a basic cook and aren't very good at fancy dishes, you will feel like you are the world's best chef when you see the finished result will stun your guests and your family.
And they won't even recognize, they won't even think it's tofu. They will think it was a ricotta cheese.
Yeah.
Or feta cheese, because when you mix it with the spinach, you don't have the taste so much of the tofu, and the lemon juice will be really wonderful.
So we just have a little bit of spinach left to work in there.
There we
Diksha's doing it so beautifully, just making sure that everything is coated before she adds more so that it cooks consistently.
You want to add the last bit?
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. And if you notice, we have this draining in a colander with a paper towel to get rid of any moisture from washing it, because as Diksha was saying, the spinach contains a lot of moisture itself. Well, we'll do waste not, want not. We'll get all the little bits in there. Okay, just put this aside. Spinach is one of those amazing vegetables. You start off with what looks like a huge amount, and then when it's cooked, you just have a little bit left.
So I think I will cover it and let it until it become limp. Meanwhile, we can do the tofu.
Okay.
So she mashed the tofu, and to that we'll add 2 tablespoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice and 2 teaspoons of salt.
Now, this isn't the Celtic salt. This is just the sea salt because it's finer.
That's right. And then we have half a teaspoon of black pepper. Great.
They seem like a lot of pepper, but when you add it to the other things.
So we can just mix that. Meanwhile, I'll check again with the spinach. It's still doing its thing, almost ready.
The thing I love about cooking is that, you know, you look at all the different parts and they don't look like anything special, but then you add it all together and it's a masterpiece. You know, okay, so that's ready to go whenever the spinach is.
Yeah, we'll just pause for a moment and we wait for the spinach to be ready. All right, so we can see here that the spinach is wilted and it's ready, and we'll mix it with the tofu. But before I do that, I will use a slotted spoon in order to strain out all excess liquid, because you will see when we stuff the puff pastry, if you have too much moisture, you won't be able to seal the pasties. Okay, so I will
get kind of soggy rather than being crisp and flaky.
So I will do this. You can also take it all and put it in a big colander in the sink, and then remove the liquid.
And I'm going to just start working it into the well crumbled tofu. Diksha, can you use the leftover liquid for like broth for soups?
Wonderful. I will sometimes even will take the liquid and cook rice with it.
Ooh, that sounds wonderful.
Grains, so it will add wonderful flavor.
Probably very nutritious too, because a lot of the nutrients in the spinach come out in the cooking.
Yep.
Can you see how that's looking really like a, as Diksha mentioned, like a spinach ricotta filling, but it's just our friend Mr. Tofu.
Okay. Almost there.
You know, these little extra steps, like as Diksha's doing, draining the spinach thoroughly, it really makes all the difference in cooking. It's the little details when you think, oh, I don't really need to do that. And you find out when you
You're
serve
sorry.
it, you're sorry. You have kind of a soggy pasty rather than a light, crisp one.
Okay. So this filling will be enough for about, we might do 16 small pasties. And so it'll be about between 6 to 8 people, depend how many pasties you want to have. I think this is good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your help, Davy.
Joy.
This is great. So this is our filling for the pasties. And we'll pause for a moment. And we'll come back and we'll bring the puff pastry. So now we are ready to assemble. We have with us the puff pastry. You can buy it. It's in the frozen section. Those are 2 sheets of puff pastry that I will be using. And I took them out. Last night, they usually keep it in the freezer. Last night, I put it in the fridge. And then before you're ready to use it, you take it out of the fridge. So I have turned the oven to 400 degrees because that's what puff pastry need. And I use parchment on the cookie sheets, but I realized that if I don't oil the parchment, the pastry tends to stick to it. So Davy will just put a little bit of foil, and meanwhile I'll take out the pastry. Guess I have to open this. It's getting soft. I'm going to take one and keep the other one right here. I have my roller. I will put a little bit, I have white flour here that I will put. I move these. And move this so you can see the flour with me. And I will open. It's nice and soft. Here we go. I will put some of the flour over the roller. And I will roll it. You want it to get really thin because it does puff up. If you keep it too thick, when it bakes, the outside will turn golden brown and the inside will stay raw. So I will turn this here. Using the white flour really helps.
Yeah, Diksha's actually using quite a bit of flour to be able to roll it out without it sticking to the counter.
Yeah.
And she's really rolling it out evenly and to very fine thickness.
So now I will try to see. I'm going to use, you can use a yogurt container. This is Earth Balance, the natural buttery spread, which has about 4.5 inches in diameter. So I wanted to see that I can get 6.
Wonderful.
I can.
Good.
Or you can use a cover of a container, and I'll try both. First I show Davy.
Yeah, I've never done this before. It's very fun.
Let's see if it cuts out nicely.
Beautiful.
Let's see if the other one works as well. You know what? I think this even goes better.
Okay.
Maybe because it's metal.
Mm-hmm.
Try here.
Yeah, you can get a little more pressure with the metal lid.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
so beautiful.
I think we have 5, but we will take the leftovers. We roll it again.
Very good.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So let's try to see. It's all coming out nicely.
And then you know where we're going with all this. We'll take filling and put it in, and then cover it with the second round, and there you have your
Now,
tofu spinach.
what I like to do is to, let's move this away. I have to roll it just a little bit more. Do you see what happens here? So make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Let's lose a little bit of shape, but it's fine. You'll see how it's all gonna work out. I'll do one, and then Davy will start helping me. So here's the filling, and divided into 4 quarters, and each quarter I will need to take about 1 teaspoon, not teaspoon, but 1 sort of teaspoon.
Tablespoon.
Tablespoon, thank you. Okay, let's take this, bring it in here, we'll need it. So let's see how much we can put in there. Put this right here.
Beautiful.
And then take a little bit water. I'm gonna wipe my hand. Put it right on the edge, not too much, just a little bit, because you want to seal it.
That brings out the stickiness of the flour, so when you...
Fold that.
Oh,
And what I like to do is the fork right here. So seal the ends, that's it. And then it will puff up a little bit. Now,
beautiful.
when we're done, I will cut a little star for Christmas, and we'll put it right on top. So let's work on that. Put that in there. Roll this a little bit to give myself a little bit more surface to work with. I think this is good. There we go. So when you feel confident, maybe I'll do this, and then the
Okay.
second part you can help me. Before we bake it, we'll do also egg wash on top, because then it will give us the beautiful golden color. This here, and here we are. So as I said, if the filling would have been too moist, I couldn't have sealed this. Okay, here we go.
And you just place them very lovingly. How close together on the baking sheet?
This is great. What
Okay,
you're
so
doing
there's
is
about an inch
perfect.
apart on the
Yeah.
baking sheet.
All right. 3. There we go.
And you're putting the filling right in the center.
So you don't want to get it too close to the edge. You want to keep at least a 1/4 inch, and so you can fold it this way. Okay, here we go. All right.
Diksha, if there's leftover filling, how can you use it?
I just stir fry it,
Stir fry,
and
wow.
just a little, not stir fry it, saute it,
Uh-huh.
and just add it with vegetable, or
Ooh.
mix it with rice.
Sounds wonderful.
I'll just heat it up and have it with salad.
Mm.
So when you do that, maybe the first few, if in the first batch, you won't get it perfect, and that's just fine. You just keep trying, and then it will get easier and easier as you work with that. See, it's already sticking a little bit, so you have to constantly coat the roller and the puff pastry.
So
yeah.
one sheet,
Here we go. This is the 400 for the puff pastry.
so one sheet of the puff pastry, you're hoping to get 6,
Actually 8.
8, okay.
But we'll see. I've done it before. Let's see if I can do it today.
I bet you can.
Here we go.
Okay.
And let me just close that. You like to spread the filling. Here we go.
Beautiful.
Here is my leftover dough. I call it dough. Yeah, it is a dough. You see, it's very forgiving. You just have to use some pressure. So how many more I said I will have? 3 more.
Yes.
Okay. Try to relax my shoulders while I'm doing this. It's easy to get tight and tense about it, which sometimes I do.
And it's so wonderful to think that this will be a wonderful Christmas meal. If you have children in your household or friends with children, the children will have opened their presents and all the excitement of the day. Friends will have visited, and then to sit down to a nice, beautiful, grounding, fragrant Christmas meal like this is a wonderful way to finish off your Christmas day.
See, it's still quite thick, the dough. You do want to have it much thinner. I have done many mistakes with baking this puff pastry, so I'm really trying to stretch it. Not just because I want to use more, because then the inside will be too raw. And you don't want to have raw puff pastry. So not only I'm going to get 3 more, but I'm going to get all the
stars.
Stars.
Oh, wonderful.
Having Davy just standing next to me, it's so comforting.
Well, I'm learning so much. I mean, I've never made this, and I'm certainly going to add it to my repertoire of special meals, because, as I said, you think these things are so difficult, and then if you have a friend to show you, you think, oh, I could do that.
Here is one. Just cutting a little bit more. So you want to put pressure. And sometimes I take a knife if I need to pull out the ends. But this really cuts much better than the other one.
I just touched the dough. It's still cool. It's not at room temperature yet.
Yes, so you want it to stay cool. Good, very good point. So here we are. And this will be for the stars.
We don't mean the movie stars. We mean, we mean the stars we're going to roll out.
A little bit expanding on it. Okay. Didn't use much of the filling.
But we know what to do with the leftovers, so it's fine.
Especially in Christmas, it's good to have
Yeah,
leftovers.
things like that. I saw something interesting in a homekeeping magazine that around the holidays, it's nice to have extra food just set aside for when friends just come in unexpectedly, and even to have a
nice.
tray of tea items and little cookies and fixings. And so if some friends come over, you just whip out your tea tray and you're ready to serve them.
Very sweet. When I roll it a little bit more, the round, it just gives me more space.
Diksha, I'm going to ask you a question that may be shocking to
Yes.
those watching the show. What's the biggest number of people you've ever cooked this dish for?
That's a good point. Actually, I did filling, but not with tofu, but I did what we call samosas. About 350 people.
So,
I had lots of help.
that was at our Expanding Like Kitchen.
That's right. Quite a few years ago, but we did it. It was a lot of fun. Actually, we baked it halfway, and then we froze it on with the sheets
Oh my gosh.
in the big freezer, and then we pull it out. It was half baked, and then before we served it, we just put it in the oven, and we finished, and it was like,
A magic trick.
it was just done. See, here was a little, I have to be
Yeah, it's a little moisture. there.
moisture, I have to be
I'm
more
gonna get you a
watchful.
paper towel.
I think it's fine. I just put, what you do, you just put the flour on it. Here we are. And now we're going to do the stars.
Okay.
And I will let you put them on.
And then we, after the stars, we do the egg wash.
Yes. And you will, if you'll be willing to help me.
I am willing. I am having a wonderful time.
Okay. Here we are. Okay. Here we
Beautiful, Diksha. It was
Okay.
beautiful.
So now
Each one was
we'll do
perfect.
this. I will roll the last. You see how much already left?
Yeah,
And we did 8.
beautiful.
So if you do this, you can do it also for Thanksgiving if you're not doing a traditional meal. And you can then roll the leftover. And if you have a cookie cutter in the shape of a maple leaf, that would be so much fun.
We have, at Ananda community, we have many wonderful cooks. And one of our excellent ones, her name is Netri Mayer, she keeps chocolate poured maple leaves in her freezer, as she says, in case of emergencies. So if people come over, she can just put something together real quick and put these little chocolate maple leaves on them. And it's wonderful to see people do things and just to perfection, as well
Yeah.
as they possibly
She
can.
is amazing.
Well, you are too.
We all have our strength.
Okay.
Almost there. Let's see if we can get 8.
8 stars. Okay.
8 stars. Do you think we can?
I'd roll it a little thinner.
Yeah. You don't want to roll it, you really want to roll it thin because you put it already on top of another layer. And if you don't do it thin, it will start to puff up and it won't look good. I have done those mistakes, so I know. So we'll try to see if we can get it as perfect as possible. All right. So what we do, I think we can get 8.
I think we can too.
Here we are. 1. So what you want to do is take the water, put a little bit water, and then turn
Turn it over.
and then
Just
paste
in the
it-
center or the whole?
the whole thing.
Okay.
Kids would love doing that.
Oh. Can you see how pretty that is?
Yeah, great. I'm pressing it down
Okay.
so I'll get a nice shaped star. How many we have?
We have
5?
5, so we
Okay.
need 3 more. Boy, you have plenty.
6, 7, 8. Here we are. And this I will save for the next batch. So for now, we'll finish this. We'll put it in the oven. Before we put it in the oven, we will,
Here's your brush.
yes, okay. So let's finish this. Oh, you have,
Oh,
you need that.
yeah.
Here's your stars.
One of the real joys of holiday time is cooking with family, with children, with friends, and so This would be a great, as you can see, it's a time-consuming job, and this would be a great dish to do, you know, if guests are staying with you, to just have a leisurely afternoon and make these together. Okay, here's 8 beautiful little.
And when I put the egg wash, which is 1 egg with 1 tablespoon of water, whisked, and now just add that. And while I'm doing this, I can very gently push down the leaf, the star.
These are going to be beautiful. And I'll get the little paring knife and you can do the final touch.
Thank you. The final touch will be just making a little slit on the top so the steam can be released when it's cooked. Now, I've tried to bake it at 350 and it's not good. You can bake it as long as you want, but what happens, it doesn't get fully baked.
I'm going to move that one just so it's symmetrical.
The 400 somehow shock the puff pastry, and it really does its thing in about 15 to 20 minutes.
Wow.
So I'll start by 15 minutes and then we'll check. Almost there. You don't need so much, but it will give it a nice shine and a golden color.
Can you also use milk as a wash?
Yes, yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
I think also when you use milk, you have to dilute it with a little bit of water.
Mm-hmm. I've used both, but I think the egg is nicer. It gives it more color, more shine.
All right, here we are. I think we did it.
Wonderful.
And now a little slit, and I'll do the slit right here in the line of the star, so the steam can be released. This is it's a very sharp paring knife, so we don't need to do a lot.
So this is our little Star of Bethlehem pasties.
I'm gonna make sure I touched all of them. I did. And so now we can put it in the oven. All right. And I think we'll take a little break. And then now you saw what we do. And then we'll come back. Maybe we'll do the rest. And then we'll show you the end result.
Okay, so we're coming to our next dish. But Diksha, do you want to show the beautiful results of your...
Yeah, here are the tofu spinach pasties. Some of them opened a little bit, which is fine. It means I didn't leave enough empty space at the end to kind of pinch the edges, but that's okay, they look still beautiful.
Okay, so now we're going to complete what we had started earlier. Remember, we cooked in the pressure cooker our wild rice mixture. Thank you, Diksha. And now we're going to do the final touches to it. We're going to, in this skillet, we're melting 1/4 cup of butter. And when that gets nice and melted, we're going to add 1 cup of finely chopped celery. And let that get nice and softened. And when this is done, then, in fact, this is the rice that's been cooked in the pressure cooker. Remember, with lots of, it had basil and thyme and sage and shallots, and it smells wonderful.
Smells wonderful.
And do you want to just go ahead and empty it into the pot? Here, you can.
I'll need your help.
Yeah, here, we'll get another spoon here. Okay.
Nice and moist. So this was just the perfect amount of water that we put with the rice. Well cooked.
Okay.
That's the magic of pressure cooker.
Now this will We'll let the celery get softened, and then we're going to add this to the bowl, and then we're also going to add 1/3 cup of toasted sunflower seeds, and you just toast them. We had used the same skillet, but with no oil, and just let them get nice and a little bit of shade of golden. And we'll also add 3/4 cup of chopped parsley. And then we'll mix this all, and here's our wonderful acorn squash that we've already baked before in our oven. And we'll spoon this in. Let this get a little softer. So the ingredients, the herbs were all cooked in the pressure cooker, and that's a wonderful way of, they kind of dissolve, so you don't really see them anymore, but they release their aroma and their flavor. If you want a little variation on this, you can actually add some dried cranberries to this as well.
Nice.
That gives it a nice little sweet touch. But you can see how this whole menu is going to fit together so beautifully for our Christmas dinner. How many guests are coming, Diksha?
6.
6.
They like to eat. We actually had here only 2 acorn, just to show you, but of course we'll have to make more for the guests that are coming. So it's nice what you if you have a little crunch for the celery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it's done?
You decide.
Okay.
This is your dish.
I think we'll let it go another little bit.
Yeah. If you're the cook, you're the final one who makes a decision.
Yeah, but who are the final judges? It's not the cook. It's
That's
the
right.
people who eat it are the
But
final
the people
judges.
who cook have to really trust their intuition.
You know, actually, cookbooks are wonderful, but I think all really good cooks go by intuition.
Yes.
And you use your recipes as
Yes.
your basic guideline. Okay, I think that looks
Turn
good.
this off. And then add that in. Great.
Okay.
You want to use this? And
Yeah. And then you want to just go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients.
which one you want first?
Sure. We'll do the 1/3 cup of roasted sunflower seeds. See how all these flavors are so wonderful, the celery and the sunflower seeds, and then the parsley. And this is for flavor, but 3/4
color.
cup. Yeah, but it's mainly for color. Because you'll see in a minute or a second, Diksha's going to turn over these beautiful squash.
Okay.
And the meat of them is this lovely golden color.
They are such beautiful how they all have that. They scoop the seeds and now gorgeous.
Oh, this is going to be wonderful. Okay, so now should we just start?
Yep, go ahead. I'll get it more close to you.
Okay.
Do you want a spoon?
Mm-hmm. We can both do it.
Why don't you? I'll take
Okay.
one. I'll get it next to
Okay.
me. Fill it up.
And with this, it's nice to kind of have it be abundant. So you want it to be kind of nice and overflowing a little bit.
And we'll heat it up a little bit before we
Yeah.
serve
Isn't that
it.
lovely?
And of course, we have enough stuffing for more than just 2 acorn, because this meal should serve about 6. So
we go about half a squash per person. Mm-hmm. It looks like a lot, but the meat of it isn't actually all that thick. So.
yes. Great. Here we
Right
are.
there. Isn't that beautiful? Let's bring our, and you can see with our beautiful tofu spinach pasties and the squash, we're getting a very nice meal put together.
So now I will do the mushroom gravy. We're getting towards the end of our cooking together. So I'll heat it up already, the skillet. I will add about 1/4 cup of olive oil. And to that, which you see it's heating very quickly, I will add about 3 cups of thinly sliced mushrooms. This is white button mushrooms.
Do you use just the caps or the stems too?
I did not use the stems in this case. Okay, so mushrooms absorb a lot of oil, but then they start to release their juice and they will become moist and they will shrink. I'm going to turn the heat to high heat, not high, medium, because it's olive oil. See, it's already absorbed all the olive oil. So I'll cover that. Meanwhile, we are steaming here broccoli. First the stems, which we peeled. And now I got 2 cups of water, which I'm adding 1 tablespoon of vegetable broth. Mix it in. To that I will add 1/4 cup bragg and 2 tablespoons of fresh ginger juice.
Now that's something you don't hear about very often. How do you get the ginger juice?
That's why you have to see all our cooking shows, because I teach it in other cooking shows.
Wonderful.
There you go. I turned it off. I'll cover it. Actually, I'm going to turn off. I turned the wrong burner. Hold a second. Keep steaming the broccoli. You want to check your broccoli stems
Okay.
if we need to add the broccoli.
I think
Still,
a little bit
Yeah.
to go. So what we're doing here is we're just in a regular vegetable steamer. First we're steaming the peeled and sliced, or it's about a 1/2 inch thick angular slice of the broccoli stems. When they get a little more done, we'll add the florets of the broccoli and steam that. I think we can go ahead and do that now.
okay. I'll turn it down a little bit.
Okay, and I'm just using my hands here. And this is for our,
This is our green dish,
Yeah.
which will make a wonderful orange sauce. And then we'll add some almonds, slivered almonds.
make sure we can get all of them in there.
You can do it, they will shrink too. See, it started to release the juices. There's more moisture in the skillet. Just a little bit more. While this is happening, I will turn it a little bit down. I want to talk to you about, in a small bowl, I'm going to mix here arrowroot, and I have 1/4 cup of cold water and 2 tablespoons of arrowroot. Arrowroot powder is a starch thickener, and it has a more neutral flavor than cornstarch. So usually in order to dissolve it, you have to start with cold water. So first I will mix that. Now that it's dissolved, I can add it into the sauce that I have, the broth with the ginger.
And then the mushroom gravy, how will we use that, Diksha?
The mushroom gravy will go onto the puff pastry.
Oh,
This
that's
is
gonna
done,
be
you see?
beautiful.
Beautiful. I'll turn this off. I'll move it to the back, right here. Get this here. It's very nice and warm in here, especially in the winter. The oven, the 4 burners. So here's the wonderful gravy that we have. And I will put the arrowroot. And I will turn it on again. Hold a second, I might need this. A spoon. Or you know what, I'm going to use a wooden spoon, which is
Okay.
probably better. So you're basically stirring it, low heat, and you start seeing that the liquid will start to thicken.
You know, the wonderful thing is this is not a professional kitchen. None of this equipment is professional cooking equipment. It's just what you can use in your home every day, and with pots and pans that you already have on hand, and nothing fancy, but but Diksha's kitchen is very well organized, and that makes a huge difference when you're cooking, where you know where things are, they go back, and so you know where to find them the next time. And
it's happening. It's slowly, you see, it's a little bit thicker. So it's not going to be really thick. It's usually, arrowroot is used when we want a clear, kind of brothy gravy.
And also for the puff pastries, you don't want a heavy gravy.
No, it's very light and smooth.
Beautiful.
So I will turn this off. And now we will add the mushrooms that you can see. I think I can do it.
Okay. Oh, that smells so good.
I'll add it even with the juice.
That's going to be a beautiful gravy to top off those delicate tofu spinach puff pasties.
So here we are. This is done. Smells great. You want to smell it for a moment? It's really good.
Oh,
Smell
that's
the ginger?
Beautiful. The ginger is very subtle,
great.
but it makes the special ingredient.
So the only thing that is left is to finish steaming the broccoli and to do the dressing for the broccoli. And we're ready to serve very soon.
Okay, now we're going to do our final dish of our Christmas dinner, and that's our broccoli with orange dressing. We've been steaming our broccoli. It looks beautiful. You remember we started with the stems, and it's just not overcooked, just a nice, still a bright green color and not too mushy or soggy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make our orange dressing. Very simple. Good old, our friend Mr. Blender. We'll start with 3 tablespoons of fresh orange juice, and we're just going to add everything to the blender. And then 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1.5 tablespoons of Bragg's, that's wonderful versatile seasoning, and 1 tablespoon each of our last 2 ingredients of fresh ginger juice, which Diksha introduced into my life and has been a very useful addition to cooking. And finally, a tablespoon of honey. And we'll try to get all the honey out here. Particularly around Christmas time, honey can get very warm, very hard, and sometimes you need to put your jar of honey in some hot water to get so it can pour. Okay, let's get our lid on this, and we're going to blend it. Okay, very simple. Now we're going to take our broccoli, which has been beautifully steamed. This was, how much broccoli was this? About 2 bunches?
Yep, and we are using the stems too. You can see that. We don't waste anything.
Okay, so we'll get the stems and the florets mixed up. Now we'll top it with our lovely orange dressing.
It's very gentle dressing.
Fresh ginger juice, as I said, Diksha introduced me to that. It just adds a wonderful, it's almost like an undertaste to everything. It's not like when you put regular ginger in the dish and it kind of jumps out at you. But the ginger juice is just a very subtle, sometimes you don't even notice it, but it gives things so much flavor. And then, what's our last touch here?
I have toasted a 1/4 cup of slivered almonds. So we're serving, so we put it on. Here we go.
And you know what? We're ready to serve our Christmas dinner.
So we have finished our wonderful meal together, and here is our Christmas meal. And at our Ananda communities, we have both a spiritual Christmas and a social Christmas. Our spiritual Christmas is an 8-hour meditation on December 23rd. And we try to give birth in our hearts and minds to new consciousness so we can give to others the highest that is within us. Then we have a social Christmas on December 25th, highlighted by festive community banquet and divine fellowship. Christmas is a very special time of celebrating divine peace and love. As you enjoy this holiday and eat your Christmas meal, try to radiate that peace and love to all. We would like to end by me reading from Metaphysical Meditation on Christmas by Paramahansa Yogananda. O Lord, make my heart big enough to hold Thee, that it throb with the Christ consciousness in everything. Then shall I enjoy the festivity of Thy birth in my mind, my soul, and in oneness with every pulsing atom. And Devi will end with leading us through a beautiful affirmation on God's remembrance by Swami Kriyananda.
Let these words penetrate deeply into your heart, your mind, your whole being. I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth, bliss infinite, divine love.